First of all, I want to say our thoughts and our prayers are with our employees that were injured in this this explosion today. That's our number one priority is taking care of our employees and their families.
A fiery chemical explosion is now deadly. Good evening, I'm Dawn G.
And I'm Scott Reynolds. We have just learned the identity of the person killed. The Jefferson County coroner saying that 59-year-old Stephen Nichols was killed in the explosion this evening at the Carbide Industries plant in Rubbertown. Nichols and 3 others were taken to University Hospital following that explosion around 5:40 p.m. Wave 3 was first on the scene, and tonight we're bringing you live team coverage from the plant, where firefighters are still on the scene, at University Hospital, where 1 patient remains, and at MetroSafe Dispatch. We begin first with Wave 3's John Cresos. He is live at the scene on Bells Lane. John?
And Scott, good evening. Less than an hour ago, we got an update from fire officials. They tell us that fire is actually still burning right now. It's going on about 3 buildings back from where we are. Crews, though, have left the building because it's not stable enough to be around. Now they're just going to let it burn out. It is still a much calmer scene here than when we got here around 6 o'clock. You can see how it looked from high above in Air 3. There was a lot of smoke and an overwhelming smell. The deadly fire started after an explosion inside a furnace room. That explosion sparked a large grass fire. All the smoke and noise had neighbors very concerned about what was going on.
You heard a lot of boom and then a big old cloud of smoke in the air. So we was like, you know, what's going on? So we come out and we see the fire department and the police officer rushing to the back of the house. So we're like, okay. Then we come out. They was like, well, no, you can't come out right now. So they rushed us back in the house.
And we now know the chemical involved was calcium carbide, and those who live around here were never in danger. But how the whole thing was handled and some of the communication has some people a little concerned and looking for some answers tonight.
And I'm updating him on the real issues too, because we're never notified. I'm glad he's being updated. He looks healthy. He's got medical insurance. A lot of people in our neighborhood do not.
Rubbertown neighborhood activist Ebony Cochran didn't waste any time confronting Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher.
I will be the first one to vote you, to get everybody in here to vote you out.
She showed up on the scene outside the Carbide Industries plant after a fiery explosion. She and other neighbors are concerned they had no idea what was going on.
Why? I've talked to you several times about how do we notify the residents? I think one time
we don't know what we have. The fire department is still inside. Okay.
Wave 3 got an alert from LMPD asking to tell residents to stay inside because of the potentially dangerous chemical. Spokesman Dwight Mitchell told me their officers were first on the scene and sent out the alert.
So that is always the first piece of advice that you'll give until you can find out the rest of the information. The rest of the information in this case is that there is no risk to the residents. So
that after it was determined by the health department that the chemical, calcium carbide, wasn't a risk to residents. Fire department officials say they knew that from the start and an alert should not have been issued.
No fire department or nobody from the incident command system called for that alert because, again, all that smoke was at the initial explosion was simply nothing more than coming from grass spot fires outside the area.
Well, again, that's why I came down here as well. I mean, we'll be getting all the information together tonight.
Plant General Manager John Gant says in the future, neighbors shouldn't be too scared about what comes from their plant.
So we don't store hazardous chemicals on site, so some of the neighbor concerns really don't apply to this particular incident, but I can understand their concern.
And back out here live now, I'm with the Assistant Chief of the Dreamland Fire Department with some new information as far as what's going on right now.
We've had the fires extended into a transformer on the 3rd floor. The transformer is containing some mineral oil. It is again, it's a non-PCB oil. The smoke won't cause any adverse health effects. We've still got Metro Health Department that's out evaluating, doing all the air monitoring in the area, close and far proximity, just seeing what the smoke's doing. And we cannot go in and put the fire out because of the calcium carbide that's still in the building that we can't put water on. So right now we're still at a good distance back at the main part of the gate and making sure that we're protecting any kind of exposures that may come in contact at a later time through the night.
Great, thanks so much for that update. And as far as the city's response to what happened with this explosion, Mayor Greg Fisher says he will be having a news conference tomorrow morning. By the way, all the roads around here are back open tonight, as are the plans for their overnight shift. Reporting live tonight, John Cresos, Wave 3 News.
All right, John, thank you. And that is not the first mineral oil fire that they have had. And Wave 3 continues learning more about the people that were injured in that explosion.
Including now one fatality. For that side of the story, we turn to Wave 3's David Williams. He's still live at University Hospital, where he's been for hours. David.
Scott and Dawn, that person, 59-year-old Stephen Nichols of Charlestown, Indiana, is dead. Authorities telling us he died from his injuries from today's explosion. We're also told one person is in serious condition here at University Hospital, and 2 people were released from the hospital today. Tonight, a family is grieving, while another family is hoping for the best. The sound of ambulances pierced the air Monday evening as several people were rushed to University Hospital, all injured during an explosion that rocked the Carbide Industries plant in Rubbertown.
Yeah, on the most serious case, we had some severe burns. That was on the most severe side, and we also have some injuries that weren't quite so severe.
At least 2 people were burned. Authorities are now saying 1 person died from their injuries.
My indication is that they were all at least close to where this incident happened. From my understanding is they'd also be workers of this plant, but that is not confirmed at this point.
As emergency crews raced to care for the injured, several people went through the decontamination process at the hospital because of possible chemical involvement at the explosion site.
They brought the patients in, they worked to clean those patients as best they can, take off the clothing that could be contaminated, then take them in to the emergency department. The challenge with a decontamination situation is dealing with both the medical injuries as well as whatever chemical may or may not be on this particular patient coming in, because you don't want to contaminate the rest of the emergency department.
Now the names of the other people brought here to University Hospital have not yet been released. We will have any updates for you this morning on Wave 3 Sunrise and, of course, wave3.com. Reporting live at University Hospital, David Williams, Wave 3 News.
All right, David, thank you. And again, we certainly send our prayers up here. And after the explosion, there was a lot of chaos inside the plant, but it was outside where one Rubbertown resident was able to watch it all unfold right before his eyes and his camera lens.
And tonight we're sharing those photos with you. Wave 3's Katie Bauer live at MetroSafe with more on this part of the story. Katie?
Yeah, Scott, here at MetroSafe, dispatchers were busy directing police, fire, and EMS at the scene, but it was outside the plant where neighbors watched and heard the whole thing happen. For Leslie Pennington, it was a beautiful night to be outside and try out his new electronic.
I was testing my camera, and I seen the explosion, and I just started taking pictures.
Pennington says he was about 1/10 of a mile away from Carbide Industries chemical plant, but says he still felt the shock.
It was scary, and I was basically trying to warn the neighbors to get in the house, all at the same time the explosion was going on.
All while capturing the moment. This picture shows just how close it was to his neighbor's house. A huge dark cloud of smoke filled the air.
It smelled like a Roman candle, like the after effects of a Roman candle, but it was much more magnified.
He says about 15 minutes after the explosion, he heard a warning siren.
It was real faint. It was really, really faint.
Even hours later, he was still feeling the effects from being near the plant.
I still taste sulfur in my mouth, and I have like a headache even right now.
Unexpected images captured in a moment few in this neighborhood will ever forget.
We brought you the breaking news as it unfolded. Air 3 above the scene as emergency crews responded. 2 workers died in that blast and 2 others were injured. And fire crews remained on the scene as it burned for days. Wave 3's Elizabeth Donatelli is in Rubbertown to shed some light on what workers and residents saw. Liz?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, guys, to listen to these 911 calls. First, you're going to hear from confused and concerned residents, then a rescuer inside the plant just after the explosion happened, and finally from first responders trying to figure out how dangerous this chemical could be.
911, Operator Goldberg, what's your emergency?
I was just calling because something exploded over here on 35th and Airdock. There's a big cloud of black smoke.
Smoke is all up in there.
I don't know if it's an emergency, but it looked like it's been a cloud of smoke.
Respond on a report of an explosion near Bells Lane and Cane Run Road.
I'm not sure. I'm in the main office over at Lubrizol. Just felt the building shake, heard a few booms. I'm looking at the cameras right now, and I see some flames over there.
I've got a multi-story, or about a 6-story chemical manufacturer with heavy smoke showing.
This is Joey Larson, MENT with Carbide Industries. I'm sure you have 911 call already. Yes, sir. All right, I have one man down. Fire difficulty breathing. My supervisor, MENT, is requesting the helicopter. Go listen, stock here, air message, whatever you got.
Plant personnel, they confirm at least 3 injuries.
Do you know what exploded?
No, ma'am, I don't know. Hey, I want to follow the EMS. Can you advise injuries?
Okay.
We're still looking. We have people missing right now. Ricky officer, go get fire department down here now.
Until we find out for sure if there's decon involved, nobody touches a patient. And I'm going to need at least 4 med units. I'm going to need 3 for transport, and I'm going to need 1 to stand by. We're dealing with thermal burns with the patient. We're still trying to ascertain what and if any chemicals were involved. The only chemical involved at this time is calcium carbide. Command, I have 2 patients en route to your location for decon.
So as you heard there, very confused and concerned residents, but also the raw actual sound from the people inside and outside just after and during that explosion. Well, we are here right now at the Southwick Community Center. That's because Mayor Greg Fisher is coming here at 7 o'clock to talk to residents of Rubbertown, to talk to them about improving communications in case something like this happens in the future.
A week after a devastating and deadly explosion at a Rubbertown chemical plant, neighbors are speaking out. Good evening, I'm Dawn G.
And I'm Scott Reynolds. 2 people were killed at Carbide Industries, 2 were hurt, and neighbors complained they were in the dark about what was going on. And tonight, hundreds of them showed up to give the mayor, Greg Fisher, an earful. Way 3's John Chrysos with tonight's top story. John?
Well, calling it a lost and forgotten neighborhood, Rubbertown residents praised Mayor Fisher for leaving Metro Hall and heading over to the West End to talk to them about what happened last Monday night. Now, during this public meeting, they talked about what happened and how the city may be able to do better in the future. Tonight, a moment of silence.
Thank you.
For 2 Carbide Industries employees killed just 1 week ago after a furnace explosion at the plant. The silence was a stark comparison to the scene that played out in Rubbertown after the disaster.
And I'm updating him on the real issues too, because we're never notified. I'm glad he's being updated. He looks healthy.
Residents sounded off to Mayor Greg Fisher and other emergency officials about bad communication.
If I was a resident here experiencing what you guys experienced the other night, you have a right to be notified. That notification did not happen.
Up until now, chemical plants were responsible for updating the Our Call hotline within 30 minutes of any problems at their plant. Outlining one of several changes, Fisher explained MetroSafe will now update the line.
So it's not reasonable to think that in the middle of a tragedy like this, with this fire and these explosions, with an explosion going on, that somebody's going to be calling a number and updating it in 30 minutes.
City leaders also took responsibility for not getting TV and radio stations good information.
We know from assessing the situation we didn't meet with the media soon enough so that we could push that information. But
most at the meeting were thankful Fisher wanted to meet with them.
You're not afraid to come in the hood, and we appreciate that. Okay.
And want to make sure they continue to be heard.
That you are relying on agencies and departments and chemical plants that have failed us for decades. So what we need you to do is make sure that the community is at the table.
Now, MetroSafe has already taken over the Our Call hotline. As far as that new notification system, which could include text messages and emails, well, the city is saying that should be in place by June or July.
Well, Louisville's mayor says a deadly explosion in March made it obvious that city government did not have a quick, efficient way to tell us about all the potential dangers.
Well, today the city unveiled a new emergency alert system. Wave 3's David Williams has more. David?
It's called the Code Red Emergency Alert System. Today, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher, the director of MetroSafe, and others unveiled the new system. The company Emergency Communications Network won the city's contract after a bidding process. This new alert system uses text alerts, emails, and phone calls to warn citizens about potentially life-threatening events, including severe weather.
Dan, that for the most part, extraordinarily flexible. It can cover the entire city. It can cover just a street, a block, a neighborhood. whatever the notification area is that we need to notify.
Tonight at 6, find out more about how the new system works.